The first rule in investment is don't lose. And the second rule in investment is don't forget the first rule. And that's all the rules there are. I mean, if you buy things for far below what they're worth and you buy a group of them, you basically don't lose money.
Thing is to be able to define which ones you can come to an intelligent decision on and which ones are beyond your capacity to evaluate. You don't have to be right about thousands and thousands and thousands of companies. It's a terrible mistake to think you have to have an opinion on everything. You only have to have an opinion on a few things. In fact, I've told students, if when they got out of school, they got a punch card with 20 punches on it, and that's all the investment decisions they got to make in their entire life, they would get very rich because they would think very hard about each one. And you don't need 20 right decisions to get very rich. 4 or 5 will probably do it over time.
The book that had the most impact on my life was The Intelligent Investor by Ben Graham.
What we're trying to do is we're trying to find a business with a wide and long-lasting moat around it, protecting a terrific economic castle with an honest lord in charge of the castle. And in essence, that's what business is all about. I mean, you may want to be the lord of the castle yourself, in which case you don't worry about that last factor. But what we're trying to find is a business that, for one reason or another, it can be because it's the low-cost producer in some area. It can be because it has a natural franchise, because of service capabilities. It could be because of its position in the consumer's mind. It can be because of a technological advantage, for any kind of reason at all, that it has this moat around it. And then what we have to decide is all moats are subject to attack in a capitalistic system. So everybody is going to try. If you've got a big castle in there, people are going to be trying to figure out how to get to it. And what we have to decide. And most moats aren't worth a damn in capitalism. I mean, that's the nature of it, and it's a constructive thing that that's the case. But we are trying to figure out why is that castle still standing, and what's going to keep it standing or cause it not to be standing 5, 10, 20 years from now. What are the key factors, and how permanent are they? How much do they depend on the genius of the lord in the castle? And then if we feel good about the moat, then we try to figure out whether the lord is going to try and take it all for himself, or whether he's likely to do something stupid with the proceeds, etc. But that's the way we look at businesses.
But in determining whether you succeed, there's more to it than intellect and energy, and I'd like to talk for just a second about that. In fact, there was a fellow that Pete Kiewit in Omaha used to say that he looked for 3 things in hiring people. He looked for integrity, intelligence, and energy, and he said if that person didn't have the first 2, that the latter 2 would kill him. Because if they don't have integrity, you want them dumb and lazy. You don't want them smart and energetic. Destructive behavior patterns at my age or even 10 or 20 years younger, and they really are entrapped by them. They go around and they do things that turn off other people right and left, and they don't need to be that way, but by a certain point they get so they can hardly change it. But at your age you can have any habits, any patterns of behavior that you wish. It's simply a question of which you decide, and why not decide the ones that, I mean, if you like, Ben Graham did this, and Ben Franklin did it before him, but Ben Graham in his low teens looked around and he looked at the people he admired, and he said, I want to be admired, so why don't I just behave like them? And he found there was nothing impossible about behaving like them. And similarly, he did the same thing on the reverse side in terms of getting rid of those qualities. So I would suggest that if you write those qualities down and think about them a little while and make them habitual.
Make mistakes in life. I mean, there's no question about it. You don't want to make them on the big decisions, who you marry and some things like that. So there's no way I'm going to make a lot of business and investment decisions without making some mistakes. I may try to minimize them. I don't dwell on them at all. I don't look back. The biggest mistakes are the ones that actually don't show up. They're the mistakes of omission rather than commission. We've never lost that much money on any one investment. But it's the things that I knew enough to do that I didn't do. We we have missed profits of as much as, maybe $10 billion in things. I've missed some big ones. The triumphs in life are partly triumphs because you know that everything isn't going to be a triumph. I would never get too hung up on mistakes. I know a lot of people that really agonize over them, and it just isn't worth it. I mean, tomorrow's another day, and you live it forward and just go on to the next thing.
The world is a great movie to watch, but you don't want to sleepwalk through life. The important thing to do is to look for the job you would take if you didn't need a job. And life is wonderful then. I mean, you jump out of bed in the morning because you're really looking forward to the day. I have, for over 60 years, been able to tap dance to work just as I'm doing what I love doing. And I just feel very, very lucky.
You need a stable personality. You need a temperament that neither derives great pleasure from being with the crowd or against the crowd. Because this is not a business where you take polls. It's a business where you think. And Ben Graham would say that you're not right or wrong because 1,000 people agree with you. And you're not right or wrong because 1,000 people disagree with you. You're right because your facts and your reasoning are right.
And I'll give you two pieces of advice. I'd invest as much in myself as you can. I mean, you're your own biggest asset by far. I mean, you've got all kinds of potential. All the people in this room, you're lucky to be in this country, gotten a good education. But most people go through life using up a very, very small part of their potential. And so anything you do that invests in yourself, that's the best investment you can possibly make. And then I would follow my passion. I mean, whatever turns you on. I was lucky. I found something early that turned me on. But you don't want to take a job just for the money. You don't want to take a job for an organization that you really don't feel good about, or work for people that you don't feel good about. You really want to be excited when you get out of bed every morning. And it won't necessarily be the job that you have 10 years later, but you'll be learning so much as you go along. And I took a job with Ben Graham, my hero, and I never asked the salary, and I found at the end of the month when I got my first paycheck what I was earning, because I just knew it was the right thing to be doing. So I would follow your passion.
If you get to be 65 or 70 and later, and the people that you want to have love you actually do love you, you're a success. Those students, that if I gave you a car and it'd be the only car you get the rest of your life, you take care of it like you can't believe. Any scratch, you'd fix that moment. You read the owner's manual, you keep a garage and do all these things, and you get exactly one mind and one body in this world. And you can't start taking care of it when you're 50. By that time, you'll have rusted out if you haven't done anything. So it's just hugely important. And if you invest in yourself, nobody can take it away from you. You can spend 110% of what you earn once, and then you used it up. I mean, the rest of your life, you're underwater. And why in the hell you want to be underwater, and why do you want to borrow money on credit cards? And we own credit card companies. I mean, people love spending beyond their income, a lot of people, and just forget it. And nothing wrong with a mortgage on a house that when you're, at some point. But even that, be careful on. The people that aren't worried about money, on balance, are quite a bit happier than people who are worried about money. And there's nothing magic. You just have to think a little and use a little discipline. And of course, who's inclined to use a lot of discipline when they're teenagers or in college? I mean, I understand that, but I will tell you that don't get in debt. And I used to tell students that this back many years ago when I could make $150 a month delivering papers in the morning. Well, what would it take an extra hour and a half? Just get up an hour and a half earlier and have $150. Charlie used to sell himself the best hour of the day. He was charging $20 an hour for legal advice, and he just decided that his best hour was from 6 to 7 in the morning, so he was just going to sell himself that hour. And that's not crazy. And Your future is your future, and you can't expect anybody else to do it. And beyond a certain point, if you get in a hole or anything, it is difficult to dig out. It isn't that it's impossible, and I give credit to people who do it, but do it the easy way.
No, I don't. I've had a terrific life. I feel, it's going to happen. And I have no idea what happens after it. I'm an agnostic. So, it may be terribly interesting. It may not be interesting at all. We'll find out. But physically, I'm pretty well depreciated. I'm getting down to salvage value. But it really doesn't make any difference at all. It doesn't interfere with my work. It doesn't interfere with my happiness. It doesn't interfere with my thinking. I don't feel any diminution in my enjoyment of life or enthusiasm for life at all. In fact, in a sense, the game that I'm in gets more interesting all the time. It's a competitive game. It's a big game. And I enjoy the game a lot.